This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. Continuing coverage of Campaign 2000, the battle for the White House. From CBS News election headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
Good evening. It was a pivotal showdown day in Florida's highest state court, and a ruling expected as soon as tomorrow could determine whether George Bush or Al Gore wins Florida and thus the presidency. Here's the latest. Lawyers for Bush and Gore were peppered with dozens of questions by the justices of the Florida State Supreme Court. Their 7 votes will decide whether hand counts of votes in 3 disputed counties will be included in Florida's final official vote tally, as Gore wants. Also to be decided are the deadline and rules for completing such counts. The Bush team argues the law requires certifying the final Florida vote without hand counts, but with absentee ballots included. In that recently combined tally, Bush's lead over Gore has widened to about 930 votes out of almost 6 million cast in the state to determine who wins Florida's make-or-break 25 electoral votes. Once again, we have a team of CBS News correspondents deployed to give you all the facts. First, Byron Pitts on today's court battle in Tallahassee. Byron?
Well, Dan, tonight all the arguments are in. We're waiting now on a ruling.
USA! USA!
Today, for the first time in Tallahassee, partisan politics and the sidewalk circus stood still.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Florida Supreme Court.
The fate of the U.S. presidency, now at least for the moment, in the hands of 7 justices.
The court is certainly aware of the historic nature of this session.
In a packed courtroom, the tension was thick. The security outside as heavy as the stakes were high indoors. Lawyers for each side given 1 hour. 1 hour only to plead for the man who could be president. Team Gore went first, arguing Florida's Secretary of State can only fairly certify the election after final results from the hand recounts are in.
To assure that the election results really reflect who got the majority of the votes or a plurality of the votes. We believe that those recounts, it would be practical to do those recounts.
Bush's lawyers rebutted the justices should only follow the ruling by the circuit court last week that Secretary of State Katherine Harris had used her discretion properly.
And I suggest to this court that the appellants have given this court no basis in this case for finding that the Secretary of State's decision was clearly erroneous.
It was 2.5 hours of legal battle. The justices spared no one.
Aren't we just adding another layer if we order a statewide recount?
58 times they interrupted Gore's lawyers, but most of the contention and more than 100 questions were aimed at lawyers for Bush.
Is that what the position of the Secretary of State is?
I don't believe so. Of course, that's not the situation we're in now.
What is the position?
There's a case.
We have a week past the deadline of 7 days. We have negligence on the part of the local officials, and they simply have not sent the results up to Tallahassee. What is the obligation of the Secretary of State?
Judge, we don't know that there's a matter of negligence. The court's assuming that.
I'm saying in my hypothetical.
When it was over, attorneys for both sides said the grilling was fair.
When these justices ask you questions, there's any number of reasons why they're asking you questions, and anyone that tries to read the tea leaves just, ends up with a tea in their lap.
George W. Bush versus Al Gore. Florida State Supreme Court could make a ruling as early as tomorrow. Dan?
Byron Pitts in Tallahassee. Among those watching the court hearing today are CBS News legal consultants, Professor Jonathan Turley, expert on constitutional law here in our CBS News election headquarters, and Professor Andrew Cohen at the courthouse in Tallahassee. A short time ago, I asked them for their observations.
Well, Dan, they don't call it oral argument for nothing. I was struck by just what a conversation took place between the justices and the lawyers. We counted almost 180 questions in 2 hours. That's over a question and a half per minute of both sides. Clearly, these justices did not want to hear rhetoric. They didn't want to hear speeches from the attorneys. They wanted specific answers to very specific questions that they asked. That's a good sign to me. It suggests that the justices absolutely had done their homework, that they were engaged in all of this, and I think it means we're likely to get a decision sooner rather than later. The window opens up tomorrow, Tuesday, and I think it'll close before Wednesday. I think we will get a decision before the Thanksgiving break.
Now, Jonathan Turley, your observations on what happened today.
Well, you know, it's always dangerous to read from the questions what the results will be. But if these justices view this case as evidenced by their questions, it's a very good day for Al Gore. They were not asking the questions that they would ask if they accepted the Bush argument. From the Bush perspective, this is a clear issue. You have a threshold question of whether the Secretary of State had authority, and if she did, you go home. Well, these justices were clearly not buying into that in their questions. They did not see clarity, but kept on hitting on points of confusion and conflict. That's very good for Al Gore, because it suggests that they may try to come out with some type of middle ground.
What would you say are the top options most likely by this court?
Well, it's hard to say. If you look at the questions, I think that they were very interested in a way for the votes on the recount to count and for these votes to be certified in time to be considered in the Electoral College. That seems to play into the Gore argument that there is time and that there is flexibility under the statute.
Andrew Cohen, most likely options the court will choose?
One of the likely options that even the Chief Justice mentioned is waiting for the hand counts to come in and then allowing the Secretary of State then to exercise discretion in determining whether they ought to come in or not. We'll soon see.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
As everyone awaits the Florida Supreme Court ruling, the counts by hand go on in Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach counties. So far, they've helped Gore some, but not much, to cut into Bush's lead. CBS's Jim Axelrod is in West Palm Beach with the latest on the tally and the stakes.
As things stand now, the hand counts in South Florida must turn up 931 Gore votes for Gore to win. With just under a fifth of the precincts counted in Palm Beach County, he's picked up just 3 votes.
Not a lot of swings either way. It's pretty, I think, pretty consistent.
6 Gore. 7 Gore.
In Broward County, the hand count is 70% done. Gore's picked up 108 new votes. Still, far short of what he might hope for in the state's most heavily Democratic county. That's why a weekend rule change by the Broward County Canvassing Board, where Democrats hold 2 out of 3 seats, is angering Republicans. Before, 2 corners of a Chad had to be pushed for a vote to be considered. Now, the standard's been relaxed to just 1, or even just a dimple.
They're unhappy with the preliminary results, and they want to change the rules until they get results they like.
Nonsense, say Democrats.
We are pleased that Broward yesterday finally decided to adapt that thing, but we didn't request it yesterday. We requested it from day one.
More cynical Republicans may say, well, those Democrats are going to find those 931 votes in any way they can.
Kevin Hill is a political scientist who crunches numbers for Republicans, but he says even the Democrats' best-case scenario for the 3 counties is still not enough.
740 is what they're looking at. My own analysis that I did last week showed it would be more realistic to say between 300 and 400 votes for a net pickup for Gore. Of course, either one of those is not enough now, now that Bush has a 930 vote lead.
And now this from Broward County. Jane Carroll, the election supervisor there and only Republican canvassing board member, has quit, saying she could no longer handle the long days. That could well halt the vote counting in Broward County after tonight, when a resignation takes effect. Dan?
Jim Axelrod in West Palm. In a separate legal battle, a Palm Beach State Circuit judge today refused to order a new election in the county. Some residents there asked for a revote, saying irregularities and confusion over the so-called butterfly ballot prevailed. The judge said he had no authority to order a do-over. In a CBS News poll out tonight, most Americans, 59%, say results of the hand counts and recounts of the Florida vote should be included in the final official tally. And pressure is building for a resolution of this election without end. 46% now say not knowing who won is hurting the country. 35% thought so last week. Not knowing also has to be hurting George Bush and Al Gore beyond what anyone can imagine. Tonight, Gore is pinning his hopes for winning the White House on Florida's highest court and the final count. CBS's John Roberts is at the White House with more about that. John?
Dan, the vice president is looking to the Florida Supreme Court to do 2 things: delay the certification of the election until all of the hand counting is done, and set broader standards for how that hand count should proceed. Anything less than that, though, and the vice president may have little chance to win this fight.
I appreciate this chance to speak to the Florida Supreme Court, and I
It was just a joke, in typical deadpan style, as Gore spoke via satellite today to a conference in Nashville, one he'd planned to attend in person.
I just assumed that by November 20th the election would be over with, but I guess not.
But the gravity of the situation was not lost on Gore. If the state Supreme Court goes against him, his only option may be to contest a certified election.
Mr. Vice President, if the Supreme Court rules against you, sir, will you accept that or contest the election? Good day.
If he did contest, and his legal team says he would, the public may run short on patience. According to a new CBS News poll, Gore's unfavorable ratings have risen since the election, and more people now disapprove of the way his campaign is handling the crisis than did a week ago. So the vice president's fortunes may turn on hundreds of so-called challenge ballots, disputed votes set aside and not included under the current criteria, but ones his campaign believes would go to Gore if the state Supreme Court sets a new standard. In another development, Florida's Attorney General, a Democrat, today recommended that hundreds of military absentee ballots rejected for lack of a postmark should now be counted. As Florida law clearly states that they must be postmarked to be legal, the Bush campaign believes that this recommendation may be just a clever ploy to curry public favor and would have no effect on the military vote. Dan?
John Roberts at the White House. Now the view from the Bush campaign. CBS News correspondent Bill Whitaker is covering that angle of the story from Austin, Texas. Bill?
Dan, the Bush campaign argument to the Florida Supreme Court was simple and direct, that the Florida legislature imposed a deadline for votes to be counted, and that Secretary of State Katherine Harris's move to impose that deadline was legal and proper.
With his presidential hopes on hold, George W. Bush went back to the Texas Capitol today, turning a day at the office into a photo op.
Governor, how do you think the recount is going?
Good to see you. A breezy counterpoint to the intense court drama in Florida, where his fate now rests with 7 justices and legions of attorneys, his troops aggressively challenging Vice President Gore's in and out of court. Their main goal out of court, to thoroughly discredit the ballot counting process as flawed and corrupted, and they've called upon Republicans across the country to help in the effort.
Al Gore's supporters are less interested in accuracy and more interested in changing the rules to generate the votes that they need to win. It's wrong, it's flawed, and it is a process that is simply and honestly not worthy of our democracy.
They're clearly laying the groundwork for further court action, which Bush aides are convinced lies ahead. If Bush wins in the Florida Supreme Court, aides say he's bound to face an appeal by Vice President Al Gore. If he loses,
the Bush camp will continue to complain about the process and will push it to the next level in terms of the court system, back into the federal courts, I suspect, and mount a continuing public relations campaign against the idea of ballot counting in this situation.
Now, the Bush attorneys have said that if they lose in Florida, there are broader voting rights issues that could take them right back to federal court. Dan?
Bill Whitaker in Austin. By the way, if anyone has gained from the Florida situation, it may be President Clinton. Our CBS News poll finds that since Election Day, his public approval rating has risen 4 points to 65%. Up next here on the CBS Evening News, Mideast violence takes another ominous turn on the way to school. And later, the good old-fashioned Canadian way of voting.
If you have high blood pressure, you know all these cold medicines warn you not to take them. So take their advice. Don't take them. Take decongestant-free Coricidin HBP. Powerful relief that won't raise your blood pressure.
If it isn't purple, it isn't Prilosec. Isn't it Prilosec time for you? Ask your doctor about the purple pill they call Prilosec.
There will always be skeptics. You know them. They say it will never work, never happen, never fly. But the next time they tell you all the logical reasons why it can't be done, just remember all the times that they have been wrong.
Every time I tried to quit smoking, I
I chewed up more pencils. So my doctor gave me a prescription that, for the first time, makes me feel in control of my cravings. Ask your doctor.
Break the habit. The prescription for help is at hand.
With shopping on your MSN homepage, you can search, shop, and compare for televisions, cell phones, video cameras, or whatever else you need.
If your pencils look like mine did, there's something you can do. Ask your doctor if the Nicotrol inhaler is right for you. Or for more information, call 1-800-INHALER. Call today.
Let's hear it for the lady. The one whose work is never done. Without you, none of us would even be here. Here's to you, Mom, from a car with the right stuff to get you through it all. Chevy Malibu, the car you depend on every day. Just like you, we'll be there.
The United States today called on Yasser Arafat's Palestinian Authority to publicly condemn the latest escalation in nearly 8 weeks of violence. It happened in the Gaza Strip on Israel's southwest corner. CBS's David Hawkins reports a bomb exploded just as a bus filled with school children drove past.
Shrapnel from the roadside bomb ripped through the school bus, killing 2 teachers and injuring 9 others. Ophir and Noga Cohen's 3 children, aged 7, 8, and 12, were on the bus. 2 of them each lost a part of a leg in the blast. The third may lose both legs.
I didn't send them to throw stones of anybody, even to the Palestinians.
The attack occurred as the bus, accompanied by a military escort, was taking students and teachers from an isolated Jewish settlement in the Gaza Strip to their elementary school. 3 obscure radical Palestinian groups each claimed responsibility for the bombing. Palestinian Authority officials denied any involvement.
We are against any kind of violence against the civilians, and we have nothing to do with this incident.
The Israeli government, however, placed the blame for the terrorist attack squarely on Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. And tonight, Israel struck back, launching waves of rocket attacks against targets in Gaza. Palestinian officials say several dozen people were wounded. Israel's Prime Minister Ehud Barak says the missile strikes were a measured response.
And we find no way but to respond the same way that any other free world democracy would in our case.
Last week, Yasser Arafat called on Palestinians to stop shooting at Israelis, and it seemed for a time things might be cooling down. After today, though, it doesn't look like the cycle of death and revenge will end anytime soon. David Hawkins, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Also today, a very experienced cameraman working for CBS News got dangerously close to the Israeli-Palestinian violence. It happened on the border between the Gaza Strip and Israel proper. When Israeli troops opened fire, Marwan Rule was hit in the leg. He was treated at a hospital and is resting at home. A freak accident in Miami today killed an American Airlines flight attendant after an emergency landing. A European-made Airbus jet carrying 130 people returned to Miami International Airport shortly after takeoff for Haiti after an engine fire alert. Turned out there was no fire, but a flight attendant opened a door before the cabin was depressurized. He was sucked from the aircraft and fell 20 feet to the tarmac. The Clinton administration announced new rules today that expand the rights of 130 million workers to appeal decisions by managed health care plans. Among other things, the rules require HMOs to make faster decisions on coverage, 72 hours when the claim is for, quote, urgent care, and faster appeals when claims are turned down. These new regulations are being issued by the U.S. Labor Department. Ahead now on the CBS Evening News, better ballots, quicker counting, elections the Canadian way.
Look! Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Ellie's renting again. And Enterprise picked her up again. She said Enterprise picks her up free. Free? Free. Now that makes renting easy.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up. You know, you can clean your dentures faster than you can shower.
Because Polydent 5 Minute has such minty cleaning power, it leaves your dentures minty fresh and clean in just 5 minutes.
Minty Fresh Polydent cleans and freshens in only 5 minutes.
Attention content enthusiasts, come to Contentville. We have content, nothing but content, whatever your passion.
I really like Russian literature. Sometimes I like to bake.
Whatever your interest.
Well, I like to read. Research? I like research.
We sell content you can download, content that comes to your door.
This is different.
Content in all its glorious forms.
Content? As in something inside of a content?
No, we sell speeches, screenplays, e-books.
E-books are great.
We ship magazines within 24 hours. We have expert advice from America's leading independent bookstores, experts with independent opinions. We sell legal documents, archives, millions of books, all at great prices.
Oh, really?
Join the multitudes. Come to Contentville, where content is king and readers rejoice.
Can you believe it? My husband, Nolan Ryan, has arthritis. So his doctor says stay active and take Advil to make it easier. I take it for my arthritis pain, so we can exercise together.
Advil, stronger than pain.
With my stiff joints, I never thought I'd be out here again. Then I discovered new Flexogen from the makers of Advil. It has both glucosamine and chondroitin, which can help rebuild worn cartilage in my joints. New Flexogen.
Mechanical trouble, huh? You ever use one of those shampoos and conditioners all in the same bottle? I'll just be on my way.
On the CBS Market Watch, continuing uncertainty about the presidential election and pessimism about corporate profits are among the reasons given for stock prices going lower today. Triple-digit losses for the Dow and the Nasdaq. After 10 years of hardline rule in Peru, President Alberto Fujimori quit today in a letter he sent to the country's Congress from Japan. Earlier this year, Fujimori claimed victory in what many called a stolen election. His public support later collapsed over a bribery scandal. Fujimori flew to Tokyo last week and apparently will remain there in exile. While voters here in the U.S. wait and then wait some more to learn who they've elected president, north of the border, Canadian voters look ahead to their own national election next Monday. And as CBS's Jeffrey Copeland reports tonight, they have every reason to expect their ballots to be counted calmly, quietly, quickly, and correctly.
With 1 week till Canadians vote, two things seem certain. They'll re-elect their prime minister, and there will be no confusion counting the ballots.
You mark it with an X in the white dot.
No hanging chads, no lingering disputes. Canada has had one national ballot design for 80 years.
So would this ballot, apart from the names, be similar from coast to coast?
Coast to coast, Newfoundland to Vancouver and north to south.
The confusion caused by the Florida vote has many Americans wondering if there's a simpler way to do these things. Canada's had to grapple with electoral reform, too. The solution here? Standardize the rules and centralize the system.
The system is run by an independent organization whose sole existence is to run elections, and who over the years have built up credibility with the population.
Good afternoon, Elections Canada, Willowdale.
It's called Elections Canada, and it supervises everything. It dispatches ballots and ballot boxes. It runs a new permanent national voters list.
You've got to reach out to the people and make sure that the reasons for which they don't vote has nothing to do with the complexity of the system.
Nothing complex about the counting. It's done by hand, with results in under an hour. And Canada recently reformed its poll closing times. Used to be that in each of the country's 6 time zones, the polls closed at 8 p.m. local time.
You could, depending on how the vote was, say one party has formed the government before the polls even close in this second half of the country.
Sound familiar? Now hours are staggered so that for 90% of the country, polls close at 9:30 Eastern Time. So, when the votes get counted here next Monday, it could be that the Canadians will be declaring a winner, while Americans are left waiting and wondering. Jeffrey Kaufman, CBS News, Toronto.
We'll give you a look at what's ahead in the battle for the White House when the CBS Evening News continues in a moment.
A computer won't do Dad much good if it never gets out of the box. So now, when you buy a Gateway PC, you can also have it installed by us. Start with a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor for less than $23 a month and add on installation, orientation, or even training. Call 1-800-GATEWAY. Technology's great, but in Gateway country, people rule.
I see lots of people with allergies, but the ones with multi-symptom nasal allergies, they're suffering from it all. The sneezing, itchy, runny nose, the nasal congestion. For that kind of allergy, I prescribe multi-symptom Flonase.
Flonase nasal spray once a day relieves nasal allergy symptoms all day and night.
All it takes is Flonase.
The #1 prescribed nasal allergy spray. Even kids as young as 4 can use Flonase. For best results, use daily. If side effects occur, they are generally mild and may include headache, nosebleed, or sore throat. Call to learn more. Ask your doctor about multi-symptom Flonase.
When you get it all it takes is Flonase.
I'm ready as anybody can be. I'm ready as anybody can be. Yeah.
Are you ready to ask your doctor about Viagra? Get ready. Ask your doctor if a free sample of Viagra is right for you.
Well, I'm ready for you. I hope you're ready for me.
Hey, what are you putting in over there?
DirecTV system.
Satellite, huh? I already got like 70 cable channels.
Well, this thing can get over 225 if you want them, all 100% digital quality.
It's on. It's on. It's unbelievable. I have a riding mower.
That's great, sir.
Now get free professional installation when you buy a DirecTV system and sign up for Total Choice programming.
What should you do if you're having a heart attack? First, call an ambulance, then take Bayer aspirin. Now Bayer may help stop you from dying when taken during a heart attack. Talk to your doctor now. Bayer. Take it for pain, take it for life.
What are the most dangerous intersections in Nashville? We'll tell you, and we'll tell you what's being done to make them safer on News Channel 5 at 6.
Looking ahead now, including tomorrow's headlines in the battle for the White House, the Florida Supreme Court could rule as soon as tomorrow on whether hand counts and recounts of votes must be included in the state's final official tally. So far, the ongoing recounts in Broward, Palm Beach, and Miami-Dade counties have not turned up as many votes as the Gore team hoped. Bush leads Gore officially by about 930 votes in the Florida tally, which includes now absentee ballots, but not the hand counts. And that's part of our world tonight. Stay with CBS News for continuing coverage of the battle for the White House. Dan Rather, reporting for the CBS Evening News. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
The court case that could decide the presidency tomorrow. Experience CBS News.
And currently wind chills of 24 degrees in Nashville on a cold night. We'll tell you how low these numbers will go.
It comes every November, but this year's Thanksgiving has something to offer that no other has.
And after 2 hours of arguments, the fate of the presidential election lies now in the hands of the Florida Supreme Court. The news is now.
From the News Channel 5 Network. This is News Channel 5 at 6. Your news and information leader.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Clark.
And I'm Vicki Yates.
Well, we begin tonight with some freezing temperatures. It's going to be another cold one out there tonight. Ron Howes is in our Storm 5 Weather Center. Ron, any flurries out there tonight?
Doesn't look like we're going to see any flurries.